Fortescue, an IFS trained practitioner, and go live each week at this time, which is Tuesday, 9 a.m. Central Time here in the US. And I'm going to give just a little insight into internal family systems and parts work, and then I'll lead us in a meditation to check in. You can find more about me on my website at faithfullygrowing.com. As we go throughout the time, I encourage you to type your questions in the chat if you're watching live, and I'll spend some time engaging with those at the end of the live. And if you're watching a recording, go ahead and put your chats into, and I'll continue engaging with the chat throughout the week. If you haven't already, I encourage you to like and subscribe to the channel and share it with others if you think it'd be helpful for them. And then finally, before I jump into our content, on Friday I have two offerings coming up. If you've been looking to do some parts work a little more, I have a workshop. We're going to be talking about polarizations and the conflict in our parts, and we'll talk about that a little bit today also. And then I also have a single coaching group, and so check out those. You can register for the website at the top, or for the workshop on the top banner of my website, faithfullygrowing.com. And if you check offerings, you can register for that coaching group that's coming up. So I can get this camera working a little better for me. I think that's all. As always, if you would like to make a donation, if you have the capacity to keep IFS and coaching accessible to all, you can donate on the website, faithfullygrowing.com/donate, or just click the donate button. And it helps me to do things like this and keep IFS accessible. And so today we're going to talk just a bit about addressing conflict within our parts. As I said, everything is a polarization. A part of me wants to do this, a part of me really doesn't. And so acknowledging that inner conflict is a common experience, and we all have that. If you're human, you have that conflict externally as well as internally. And some examples of that could be feeling torn between opposing desires or responsibilities. And like I said, everything is a polarity. And so be aware of that, of the parts that may be on one side of the pole or on the other. And inner conflicts arise when different parts of us have competing needs or fears. And every part, even conflicting ones, and this is not going to be any news to those that are familiar with IFS, but they operate from a place of care and compassion. They're wanting to protect us, but our parts are often younger and they don't know who we are today. And so here's some steps, and I'll lead you in a process to do this a little bit in a bit, but to address and be more aware of that inner conflict. And first, notice areas where you feel stuck or torn, and just take a bit to pause and observe the sensations, emotions, or thoughts pointing to internal tensions. And then seek to understand the needs and fears of that internal system and those parts. It may be helpful to ask each part, what do you need? What are you afraid will happen if things don't go your way? And recognize that each part is striving to protect you in its own way. There are no bad parts. And then as you begin to mediate, your parts understand that you're at the center. Mediate with compassion. See if you can tap into that self, that belovedness, and be calm, centered, a mediator, and acknowledge each part's efforts and validate its perspective. And get creative. Maybe explore ways the parts can collaborate or take turns. And then here are some practical exercises before I lead us in a meditation. It may be helpful to reflect on an area of current inner conflict and be aware of that today as we go throughout our meditation. And imagine the parts involved and ask them, what do you want me to know? How can we work together? And just practice holding space for these parts without judgment. So let's take a bit and let's check in with our parts and see what we notice today. Particularly, see if you can bring to mind some parts that are conflicted. One part may want to do this, one part may want to do that, and see if we can get curious and see what we can learn. And so as we begin, I invite you to settle into where you are and take a deep breath in and let it out slowly. See if you can set aside distractions for just a bit, or maybe that's your inner conflict, and give yourself the gift of presence. Feel the rise and the fall of your chest. Let your breath guide you into a place of calm and curiosity, and be aware of those parts that may be resistant to that calm too. Let them know that they're welcome. Just begin to slowly scan your body from the top of your head to your feet. Notice if there's any tension, heaviness, other sensations. Simply observe without judgment if you can, or if there's some parts that are feeling some judgment, maybe they don't want to be here. Let them know that they're welcome too, and they can go play and do what they need to do. They don't have to be here. There's no shame in that. Take a moment to reflect on an area of your life where you feel torn or conflicted. And invite the parts of you involved in this conflict to step forward if they'd like. We just want to hold space for them and be curious. Maybe offer some compassion as we understand. As you see those parts gathered around, and we're going to spend some time with the collective group today. Check in and see where you're noticing this group. Maybe it's just by seeing them around you. Maybe it's a sensation or two in or around your body. And notice how you're feeling toward this group. And if it's something more constricted rather than openness, it's likely another part. Let them know that you see them too, and they can either witness, knowing that they can have time in the future. We tend to get to know our parts better one at a time, or one group that cling together at a time. So just decide for yourself who needs your attention today. And then turn back to that part or that group of parts and check in and where you're noticing them. How are you feeling toward them? See if you can extend just a drop of compassion. You don't have to have a whole lot, just a little bit will do. And from that place, just simply ask, what do you want me to know about this conflict? Totally okay too if you need to pivot between parts on each side and give them both a voice in this meditation as you're in between, and make sure they know who you are and that you're guiding this process. See if they could trust that a little more. And after you ask, what do you want me to know? It may be helpful to ask, what are you afraid might happen if things don't go your way? And if you spent time with one side of that conflict, maybe turn to the other side. Turn your attention to that side and see how they're doing with the attention. And from that place of just a drop of compassion, maybe ask them the same questions. What do you want me to know about this conflict? And what are you afraid would happen if things didn't go your way? And let them know that you get them. Both sides are valid. And then check in a little more, and we're not going a lot deeper with this, but just see how your parts are responding to you being at the center of this. It may be helpful to remind them who you are today. Check in on each side and see maybe how old they are. Things are different now. They're not alone. And you need both sides. They keep you balanced when they're not extreme. And simply holding space for these parts to feel heard. And that's what we're doing today, is a powerful step. And see if there's anything else before we begin to wrap up. How are these parts doing with both sides of the conflict being seen and heard? Maybe even introduce the idea that they're on the same team and they've got you and all of your belovedness and that self to guide. And thank the parts on each side of the conflict for their courage in coming forward. Being seen and heard takes a lot. Maybe there were some parts that softened back and witnessed this. Remind them that you can spend some time with them too. And thank them for their courage to soften back today. Then when it feels right, you can take a final deep breath in, and as you exhale, imagine releasing any tension or heaviness. If you you closed your eyes, you can open them. See if you can take some of maybe more of a spaciousness that you're feeling with you into your life. But thank you so much for joining me for this time and for this meditation and for taking the time to connect with your inner world. And know that you can return to this meditation whenever you need support. Thank you. And I'll hold on for just a bit. If you have questions, Millionaire Mom, so great to connect with you. I know we have done some back and forth with the messaging. And hey, I gave up IFS as my images became scary. Now I have 3 slip discs and trapped nerves and am immobile. Any advice? I actually can't walk. Thank you, Diane. Yeah, it's a hard place to be. And I mean, I could sit here and act like I know it all and have great answers, and I don't. But I would say, and I think it's great to take a break from IFS from time to time. I love the model. I live the model. There's no shame in that. Trust your system with that. And I would encourage you, just to be aware of, the scariness, the images, if you want to engage with IFS more. And this is all including the medical care that you're doing and all of that. And that's not my expertise at all, but I would say just showing up is a great step. And just sending compassion or finding others who can hold compassion, hold that self energy with you and for you. And hopefully you're sensing some of that here and knowing that you're not alone. So I'd say keep showing up to things like this. Any of you can send me an email at any time, tim@faithfullygrowing.com, and I'd be glad to engage there. But hopefully that was helpful just a bit, Diane, and so grateful that you're here. Anything else before I sign off for now? Yeah, thank you. And so I do this each week, same time, which I'm in the Chicago time zone here in the U.S. Central Time. And so at 9 o'clock on Tuesdays, join me. Thank you, Diane. So grateful for your engagement here. And I'll plan to see you all next week. England. Okay, I think I had caught that somewhere, but I didn't remember. But yeah, so great. Keep showing up, keep reaching out, and we'll hold space together. And thank you, DL11. Yes, so grateful that you're here. And if you all don't mind, I'd love to send an email. I think I know some of you that show up here, but I don't necessarily know the names. And so send me an email, tim@faithfullygrowing.com, if that makes sense ever, and let me know that you're tuning in, because it's an encouragement for me. All right, I'll sign off for now and look forward to connecting next week if it works for you. All right, take care.